Jeff Cutchell, how's it going today?
It's going good, Jeff C. How are you doing?
Good. Doing good. This is episode 2 of Jeff Squared. I'm glad you came back. Otherwise, it'd be just Jeff.
Yeah, well, maybe we have one too many. I'm not sure, Jeff.
We might. Hey, you're in Kansas City, right?
That's right.
And what's that area known for?
We are known for barbecue, actually.
And steaks and stuff?
Yeah.
I've been looking at my front porch. I don't ever see a box of steaks from Jeff Cutchell, so I'm hoping that resolves itself moving forward.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for the big checks to start rolling in, Jeff. So as soon
Okay,
as
so
that
neither of
happens,
us are going to get what we want. That's okay. What are we going to talk about today? We need a hot topic.
well, something interesting for with the pandemic, we keep hearing a lot about disinfectants and spraying hard floor surfaces or hard surfaces, and one thing that I haven't really heard a lot of discussion is you get overspray onto the hard flooring, the surface flooring, like the luxury vinyl flooring. And I was just wondering if that has any effect, what effect these disinfectants might have on, some of these hard floor surfaces that they are probably getting sprayed on.
That's a great topic. My answer is don't do it. Don't spray on these other surfaces. But I know that's not the reality. I know when I
Probably
have my
not.
cleaning company, you spray stuff, it gets all over the place. You got to wipe it off. It causes issues on some of those wood finishes and maybe some stone floor as well. So I don't know if I have an answer for you beyond that. So we need an expert, don't we? In fact, I have a picture of our expert today.
Um,
This fella right here may have an answer to our questions about what we're going to cover today. Let's bring him on and talk to him. Let's see who it is. Let's get him on camera. There he is, Jim Manis from
Hey,
Shaw Industries.
Jeff, I didn't know you got a hold of my bio. Thank you. That's very,
well, when we saw the magic carpet ride, Jim, we automatically think of you. I mean, Shaw's the largest carpet manufacturer in the world. You've been working there for several years, and now we know you're making millions of dollars traveling the country with Shaw Industries. But I've heard through the grapevine that you started off more humble beginnings as a carpet cleaner.
the entryway for my career was that hey, if you're tall enough to hold hoses, you got a job. So I think I entered the cleaning career when I was 8 years old. So um, and interesting enough, I was very rich compared to my friends at that time because I got paid 50 cents a machine hour. So my dad really helped me out there. So I probably get $2 to $3 at the end of a day because I didn't get paid for driving or for any of that. So
That's why
yes,
the machine was idling all day long.
yeah, I made sure to start it as soon as we pulled up, Jeff.
I think what we've done is just like they do in a courtroom. We've justified Jim as an expert. So let's ask our main question. Jim, the topic is the use of products, chemistries like disinfectants, sanitizers, and we know that cleaners and restorers are using them. And since the pandemic, more so than ever, they're spraying them, they're applying them. The customers, the clients want them. Tell us a little bit about the implication, the consequences of using those products if they hit or are applied to other surfaces.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Jeff, big topic here, and we'll try to scrunch it down into some key bites here. But I think when you look at the overall standard operating procedure in the last, let's say, 12 to 16 months, we've had products introduced to the interior built environment that were typically used maybe annually or as needed that quickly went to a daily regime, if you will. And because of that, there's a lot of unintended consequences that we're seeing, especially in the flooring industry, but also really, as we interact with our clients, the interior built environment, all interior finishes have in some way been exposed to these products. So we've done some work at Shaw Tech Services to try to understand what's actually going on with the use of quaternary products, with phenols, with the oxidizers that are the typical three amigos of disinfection, let's say. And you'd mentioned the professional cleaner, but unfortunately, I'm not as concerned as much about what they've done as what the management team, the maintenance team has done, or the homeowner has done that may not necessarily. Of course, you know, Jeff, I'm going to ask you a question back. Isn't it true that everybody follows label directions, right? Isn't that accurate?
Yeah, they dilute things properly and use the right sprayer and are very careful about dwell time and everything. Right?
Let's take a little bit deeper dive there. You know, when we look at things like resilient plank, which is obviously a vinyl product, we look at things like cementitious, you know, tile and grout, and of course our friend carpeting. You know, most of the product was not applied and then rinsed as according to label directions. So there's issue one. And then, as many of the viewers today will know, that some of the product categories will definitely cause some very negative effects, especially on carpeting. They will definitely yellow carpeting. But what's interesting is when you consider the whole built environment, a lot of these products, as we know, we've learned, they walk around. You know, human beings are very efficient transporters of soil and contamination. And so where you'll typically see that problem present itself is anywhere where you transition from a hard to a soft surface. And I feel it incumbent upon us to really talk about, you know, what potential liability a professional cleaner could be assuming by not listening to, I say listening, I guess it can't talk, but maybe really paying close attention to what that building is telling you. And the first thing I do, and I know if I'm like all you flooring experts out there, I'm always looking down, right? No matter where I go. And of course, judging everybody else by their lack of maintenance, you know, that's kind of typical. But what's interesting, the building will tell you kind of what's been going on. The first thing I look at is the doorknobs and the door hardware. The vast majority of them are going to be very tarnished, all colors of the rainbow, blue, black, you name it. And that's right away, if I'm assessing a job, I'm going to go, okay, something's been used here that is definitely causing some change. Pay attention. And then I'm going to instantly look at the entryway products that possibly have grout or cementitious, where you typically find those. If that grout is really dark, you know, not in its natural state, I know that we've got some things going on there. Or it may be actually degraded by some of the oxidizing and peroxide-based products that we've seen. So usually the building will give you hints and clues as to what's been going on as we look at it. We mentioned yellowing on carpet, but what probably many of the viewers may not know is that we've done some pretty decent microscopy work on some of the resilient products, Jeff. And when we look closely, some of the products that are widely commonly used, and again, last year we used a heck of a lot of them, they're literally eating holes in the surface of these vinyl products. And for me, as you know, my professional cleaner hat on, I don't want to inherit that job if I know that that surface is now pockmarked with holes holding soil and who knows what else, right? So again, not to be scared, but now more than ever, we all learned in our CCT classes that hopefully we've taken through the IICRC, but it's always incumbent upon us to inspect before proceeding, right? Those have been the traditional cornerstones of a professional. Now more than ever, inspect that. Don't inherit a problem that you did not create.
When we do look at a job, we want to think about what's pre-existing and you don't want to own that. And then when you take on a job, whether it's in a facility or maybe in a home, you know, what are you doing with the product so you don't create it yourself? So your advice is be very careful how you apply, keep other surfaces clean, means what we've always taught, wipe those surfaces if you do overspray.
Well, I think it's most importantly to ask the right questions. Engage that maintenance team or the homeowner to say, hey, do you mind just sharing me what you've done? I know I saw you last year, and now that we're here kind of cleaning up, tell me what you've used. That allows me to work my professional skill set in order to, you know, get that out of the carpet and not add more, because in many cases, as you guys know, facilities managers especially had limited access to disinfectants. I mean, they were gone overnight, and they may use one for a month, and they may have switched to a whole nother genre the next month. And I call it the proverbial soup, which is on the floor. You'll notice that these floors are in really bad shape now because of all the residue and the tacky, which hopefully can be cleaned off. But then we've got the underlying effects of some of these pretty powerful chemistries that people may have over applied. Just saying, you know, they may not have followed the label directions.
You caught my attention big time when you said holes in the vinyl floors. I know those are small, but still there is damage to the surface. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when you mentioned the proverbial soup, Jim, as well, we know where that all goes, is that goes into the waste tank, right? And you hear a lot of cleaners, you know, bragging about how much heat they have, about how much pressure they have. No one really talks about the waste tank. And I know we've all had truck mounts. I know I didn't keep mine as clean as I should at times. So does that have any adverse effect, possibly health-wise, on the technicians from this all going into their waste tanks?
Well, again, you know, as you know, kind of spotting theory 101, you look at what it was, what's happened to it, and then how to re-emulsify and get that back into a, you know, a state where we can remove it. And for example, you know, I won't call it out by name, but a very specific, widely used historic product. When you look at the SDS, it has acute aquatic toxicity. And that doesn't go away just because it's laying there. So I would just be very careful in assessing those jobs. In any product that did require PPE, either mixing or application, I think it's important to understand, again, as you said, Jeff, the soup, an ounce of prevention is always worth a pound of cure. So let's be careful. We don't know what we're getting into in some cases. I don't want to cause alarm, but I just want to raise awareness of this is undiscovered country and new territory for us, where we've had to inherit all the good and bad behavior the last year and try to make it good again. So certainly the other component to this, and you know, I don't know if it's applicable, but through the pandemic, OSHA has issued north of $4 million in fines from off-label use and not providing adequate PPE, and the list goes on and on. And part of the recent stimulus plans that have been passed is to include more enforcement for that particular, you know, that particular division to be able to go out there and get. So again, I think now more than ever, it's time to be careful. It's time to be cautious. Time to be smart, and understand that we're all doing the best we can, but we could get into situations that we may wish we wouldn't have got into.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Great topic today. Follow directions. Use that measuring cup. Apply your product with thought, and don't inherit other people's problems. Sounds like that's the some takeaways there.
We could have made this all happen in just 30 seconds, Jeff.
Yeah, but you use some really big words that I think are impressive. So we've got that on tape. So.
All right. Well, don't ask me to explain them, but
no, we'll Google them. Don't worry about that.
All right.
All right, Jim. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome. Jim.